Roberto Clemente, the Hall of Fame right fielder from Puerto Rico, left an indelible mark on baseball history, and on me. 12 Gold Gloves, 13 All-Star games, 3,000 hits, the first Caribbean or Latin American player to win a World Series, to win the National League MVP, the World Series MVP. The great Joe Posnanski ranked Clemente number 40 on his excellent Baseball 100 list. Clemente's resilience is legendary. Rebounded from military service, back injury after injury, and a full share of racism, of course, in the 50s and 60s. But his day-in, day-out efforts to learn, to get better and do better, extended far beyond the diamond. Clemente's mantra, "All that matters is tomorrow's game," got on the shirt here, encapsulates his philosophy of resilience, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of a better world. He got up every day, no matter how the game before went, and gave himself and gave back. Clemente died in 1972 at age 38 in a plane crash delivering aid to earthquake victims in Nicaragua. But his impact has had a longevity he could have never imagined. As U.S. Democrats face the aftermath of a devastating defeat in the 2024 federal elections, we must embrace a similar mindset. We have to learn from our losses, but not dwell on them, adapt and embrace new challenges, and stay committed to fighting for what we truly give a shit about, no matter the obstacles. For the people now who are very much watching and listening, and for everyone who will be born that'll hear the story. The Democratic Party's current crisis, which is a long time coming, demands both immediate resistance and long-term power building. And there's great news for everyone keeping score at home. These are not mutually separate tasks, but mutually reinforcing necessities. In a few weeks, the Democrats will be almost entirely out of power on the national stage for the first time in a while. And the new administration, however chaotic, promises a daunting array of cruel hammer blows. The U.S. leaving the Paris Agreement again, blowing right by the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold, cutting clean energy investments, draconian tariffs on clean tech, and a ton of other shit, and holy campaigns against public health, reproductive rights, and civil liberties. Now look, the U.S. Democratic Party of old, or even recently, isn't perfect, clearly, but at least they tried to not kill you most of the time. Either way, what we have here is a crisis on multiple levels, and obviously we're all feeling that. So in the spirit of everything we make here, what the hell can we do about it? Now, it's important to remember that Democrats have lost like this before, and fairly recently if you're old like me. The party spent the mid-2000s celebrating Obama and ignoring state and local elections, to the glee of Republicans. They were left to gloat and execute their down-ballot strategy and built formidable, long-lasting power over states and prisons and voting districts and uteruses. Uteri? We paid the price many times over, but we also learned from those losses and responded with renewed organizing efforts at really every level. Yeah, so 2000 was a sliding doors moment, or a hinge point, I guess, but so was 2008 and 2012 and 2006 for sure, 2020, thank God, and now 2024. But as historian David McCullough reminds us, nothing ever had to happen the way it happened. We make shit happen, or we don't. No one is coming to save us. We must accept the outcome, learn from our mistakes, and focus on what comes next, like a pitcher giving up a monster home run and continuing the game. All we get to choose is how we react to this. And look, honestly, you have to react to it. You can mourn all you want. I have done it. You can put your head in the sand over the holidays. I mean, I've been living in a pink and green wicked fever dream for over a month. But believe me when I say it's not going to change anything. This is happening. Now, I'm just a bit terrified of how I'll handle the everyday anxiety and stress of this next episode of the America TV show. So I'm spending the next month, honestly, making myself more resilient than I've been in years, hopefully, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need it. In the U.S., we live in a two-party system, which, one, sucks, But two, in case you are among those who think the parties are actually mostly the same, there are some helpful differentiators. For example, one of the two parties, Democrats, are the only party not actively furthering the return of white Christian nationalism. So Democrats, then, are the default party for people who give a shit. To move forward, people who give a shit must not only campaign better, but clearly articulate what we give a shit about. We have to fight for our values in exceptionally clear and approachable language, even if it makes our traditional base kind of uncomfortable. Our core principles should win out: effort, teamwork, and purpose. They have to guide us as we face this complicated challenge. But we cannot afford to be timid or vague in our convictions and our messaging. As all those turncoat venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, like to say, it's time to build. To build true, overwhelming, progressive power requires three pretty interconnected forms of infrastructure. One, sustained organizing networks. There's tons of them. We need to redouble the resources and participation in these groups that, frankly, got us this far, that flipped Georgia, that made Virginia bluish. We need alternative information channels, thousands of them, based on shared values, but reaching deep into non-political lifestyles and decentralized from the mothership. We need new civic institutions hell-bent on human rights and democracy, because they're going to tear down the other ones, and there's not a lot we can do about that now. Now look, our work here and our new app, What Can I Do, are specifically built to support these ideas and the most effective organizations and candidates that fight for them. Now, I understand that right now the last question you want to ask is probably, what can I do? You are tired and fucking bummed, but we have to do this work now. We know what stands in our way. We know how to organize. There are so many reputable, hardworking state and local organizing groups that were birthed after 2008 and 2012, and especially after 2016, all fighting the long defeat where they can actually make an impact. But in the same span of time, union power absolutely cratered, and the world got online and less trustful of one another. Not only of each other's opinions and what facts are, but that we'd have one another's backs when shit went down. We need you, listener, to join or rejoin those groups, to communicate and operate on a shared set of irrevocable universal values from a decentralized but far better funded apparatus of giving a shit and meeting people where they are and what they give a shit about. We have to actually listen to them. These groups need your fresh legs, fighting for everything from fundamental things like clean air and water to maternal health and mental health, to malaria and cancer vaccines, to affordable food and tampons and childcare and education. There's so much to do. But the great news is when successful, these mechanisms reinforce each other. We call it multi-solving. And that's only if we reinforce each other and tell our stories. We know how to operate as the minority party, whatever the setup is. But we also have to operate, and frankly with unhinged fervor, as the opposition party, while we fight to take back the myriad groups we abandoned or misunderstood or straight up left to be brainwashed. We have to let loose a million new voices that agree on our baseline vision of a good life, where one life is not worth more than the other. To let those voices position themselves in niches they know but we clearly do not. To appeal to groups we have either ignored or even chastised, probably, in the past. Meanwhile, we have to be loud and excited to tell those in power now, from cities to the Senate, fuck no, we're not going to help you hurt people, and make sure somebody records that. At the same time, as all the yelling, we have to control what we can control. Because at local and state levels, we can still make lives better wherever and however we can. We can and have to do the proven basic shit that represents the fundamental truth of the situation, that multi-solves for the majority of our real-world, here and now problems and opportunities. We'll fight righteously from the bottom up for alternatives that truly serve the American people in 2025 and 7 generations later. But to be effective, we have to reach people, way more people, in unconventional ways. We can't just be right. we have to be in power. That means no more even playing close games. It means rethinking how we build power. For too long, Democrats have misconstrued the views of highly educated advocacy organization leaders with those of average voters, clearly, particularly on issues like the economy and immigration. We spent so much time on racial identity politics that we didn't see actual Latino or Chinese American voters prioritizing personal security and economic stability. And most crucially, we lost the single biggest voting bloc in the country: young white men. We cannot simply rely on winning some close games, because winning some close games means never building long-term power. And I can't say this clearly enough. We cannot protect and lift up marginalized and disenfranchised communities without consistently and reliably being in a position to fucking do so. Again, as AOC put it, we can't just be right, we have to be effective. And you can't be effective if you're not in power, and you can't be in power if you ignore entire voting blocks. Right now, the Democratic National Party is very, very ineffective. There's this fundamental misunderstanding of how political messages reach voters in 2025. There's a collapse of local journalism and the rise of right-wing media buyouts, creating these vast news deserts flooded again, but this time with sustained conservative presences. It's a system, man. It fucking works. But if the media and institutions and politics and the world and the global order that our great-grandparents and grandparents built by way of the Industrial Revolution and World War II are coming to an end, we have no choice but to build new ones, like nonprofit newsrooms that report on the historic, exorbitant profits that most workers never fucking see. Quite simply, our power now has to come from somewhere new. From the sun. From each other. From nonprofits, from sources of energy and progress that have been there the whole time, but we've never committed to unleashing in full. We have to join these reputable organizations that have been on the ground doing it. We have to construct these local information networks, like Capital B. We have to document abuses of power like ProPublica does, and demand democratic leadership that understands politics is about conflict. As much as there have been some days recently where a big part of me definitely wanted to, we didn't build this whole project to give up now. Important Not Important was born in the Trump years, refined and grown in the Biden years, and it will persist as Western democracies keep, crumbling left and right. So our rules of engagement, which I kind of made up on the fly, are pretty simple. 1, do not fucking capitulate ahead of time, clearly. Number 2, conflict averse is for the cowards and the comfortable. 3, the cavalry of old is not coming. Those are the institutions. They have the U.S. President, Congress, Supreme Court, an incomprehensibly large media ecosystem, Silicon Valley now, Wall Street, the billionaire owners of every remaining newspaper and social network, and the richest man that has ever walked the earth pulling all of the strings. Number 4, we have to platform and fight for our values and multi-solving 80-20 policies wherever we can. For housing and housing and housing and housing and clean air and water and food, vaccines, wealth creation, free lunches, public schools, and more. We cannot just pivot and focus on winning the next election by another narrow margin. We need to build enough sustained power that the games are no longer even close. We have to create lasting improvements in the daily lives of Americans alive now and for generations to come, and then fucking tell them who did it and let them tell each other. That means diverting investments from insane national campaigns where we're definitely going to win or definitely going to lose to grassroots organizing, to funding and unleashing, yes, again, a wildly diverse media infrastructure that often has fuck all to do with politics, and creating new institutions that can outlast any one election cycle because they are founded on the vigorous defense and expansion of a permanent set of human rights. I don't want to win close games anymore. I want to learn from our mistakes and then absolutely fucking bury these people every time. American political change requires both spectacular opposition and lasting institutional power. That is clear. Democrats have for so long mistakenly treated these as separate choices. Dramatic confrontation creates the energy for institution building, and strong institutions enable sustained opposition when we need it. We need Joan Westenberg's radical, rebellious fuck you optimism that persists in the face of despair and keeps moving forward, like she said, with a middle finger raised and teeth bared. The history of the labor movement, stripped for fucking parts for decades now, leaving a gaping hole in our power, shows that progress comes from the combination of vocal opposition to injustice and patient work building lasting institutions that can redistribute power and then protect that redistribution. Joan finishes, we need this kind of radical hope now more than ever. Not because it will save us. No one's coming to save us. But because the alternative is being paralyzed. The systems want us to feel small, powerless, apathetic. To those systems, I say, kindly, get fucked. We have to be better ancestors right now. We have to figure our shit out. We have to build and rebuild power over years. But understand this, how we spend our days is how we spend our time. We're behind. Republicans have spent decades clamoring loudly to anyone who will listen, telling us who they are and what they give a shit about in no uncertain terms, and setting messengers off into the wind to do their thing. The control is the point, they said. The cruelty is the point, they basically said. Lies are the point, the instrument, the lever. But understand this. If citizens are unhappy, and they said they were unhappy, delay, deny, depose. Prior authorization needed before thoughts and prayers. The next available appointment is in 2027. Anesthesia cut short by suits. Your home is uninsurable. Your apartment and groceries and childcare are unaffordable. An unachievable American dream for most, an incomprehensible fever dream of inherited, compounded, or stolen wealth for a few. Take America back. And we refuse to send the old guard off into the sunset. Our octogenarian elected officials, and equally old and devastatingly ineffective messaging apparatus, our monstrously regulated housing and our bluest strongholds, our unholy big money thrown at national level guaranteed wins and losses for incumbents who have never been a bartender, much less a female bartender with an economics degree turned wildly popular congresswoman denied a seat of power. Those same citizens, no matter their demographic, no matter if they just got here, will listen to the lies, the only story that they're being told, and vote in favor of something has to fucking change. And they voted this time, not for tinkering around the edges, not the reformation of imperfect American institutions, but the wholesale delegitimization and further deconstruction of them, from morals and societal norms to the entire institutional knowledge of the civil service, the financial system, and actual national institutes of health, while building their own new greed-filled power structures like unregulated crypto. What we focus is, very clearly to everyone who is watching, what we give a shit about. They told you who they are. Who are we? But listen, good, just governance won't cut it. That's clear now. Something has to fucking change. If you refuse to adopt the tools of today to tell people what you're fighting for, you're abdicating the public square and, moreover, the last mile of a wide and varied country that affects the entire world. That's not what compound action is. Compound action, action over time and across people, multi-solving for a better, more just world, telling stories of progress and perseverance with every tool at your disposal is what got us here. It's what it's going to get us back in the game. We can't change the past. We can't change the result. We can focus on tomorrow's game. We can choose to spend our time fighting for what matters most, for basic human rights, for a livable planet, for a society where everyone has a chance to thrive, and a safety net in case they can't. It's not going to be easy. But as much as I got into this game excited about shiny new tech, it is now abundantly clear that the only fight worth having is one that guarantees that one life is not more valuable than another. We must do the things loudly, to loose a kaleidoscope of messengers to argue for basic fucking human rights, and sometimes in imperfect language. A new infrastructure that intentionally broadens the tent with sustained narrative building to voters and non-voters and bros who never engage with traditional political outreach and don't fucking want to. This is the complicated work of our lives. And the good news is we're vastly more prepared and powerful than we were the first time these fascist asshats were in charge. And as Roberto Clemente taught us, all that counts is tomorrow's game. Let's approach the fights ahead with the same passion, integrity, and unwavering commitment to making a positive impact that defined his remarkable short life. The game continues. I do think we're just getting started, even if we're going to have to dig through some rubble. We're not going to settle for winning close games anymore and calling it progress. We're going to build a movement so strong and so resilient and so deeply rooted in the lives of everyday Americans that the games are no longer even close. We'll fight for a future where every child has clean air to breathe, where every family has a safe, electrified place to call home, where every worker has the power to demand fair treatment and fair wages, where every voice is heard and valued and counted. That's the tomorrow we're playing for. That's the game that counts. And together, we'll fucking win it. That's it. Thanks for giving a shit.